That was a good night's sleep. Wait. Today's the day. Today's the day! Yes! It's finally here. May 16th, opening day for Gareth Edwards' Godzilla. Oh, I've been waiting so long. Which reminds me. Meet me upstairs, okay? I just wanted to talk to you seriously for a moment. Yeah, I'm aware of the irony. Now, you've already been catching a lot of flack. I realize that. There are people who say that they don't get why your movie exists if last year we got Pacific Rim. Of course, we can write off those people's opinions because they are complete ignoramuses. I mean, there's no similarity between your movie and Pacific Rim. It doesn't take a genius to figure that out. There are some people who say that you are the fat American Godzilla. Mostly Japanese audiences who just don't like your new design, saying that you're too big and bulky, that you came to America and got fat. Well, considering how you tended to look in the actual Japanese movies, I'm pretty sure we can write those people's opinions off as well. And of course, there are going to be people who just write you off based on the fact that it's Godzilla, and they only associate Godzilla with cheese and camp and bad filmmaking. Well, those people are entitled to their opinions, but you're still wrong. Even I was hating on your first teaser trailer. Then again, teaser trailers are hardly anything to go on, right? Now, I've seen every Godzilla movie ever made, so I know exactly what I want out of this. I want you and the people who made your movie to understand. Yes, you look more like the original Godzilla than the last time we made an American version of you. But then again, the look was never really the problem with that version. The real problem was that they didn't understand what Godzilla is. The whole point of Godzilla is that he's not just a big, dumb, roaring animal who gets blown up by the military because God bless America. No. Godzilla is the wrath of nature and the wrath of man combined. He is at once our greatest salvation and the punishment we deserve. You see, what the last American movie failed to realize is that Godzilla is unique. Amongst all monsters, he is truly unique. When you get right down to it, there are two kinds of monsters in all of storytelling. There are the ogres, and there are the dragons. Ogres are humanoid monsters. They're the ones that look like us. Trolls, vampires, zombies, you name it. And the whole point of them looking human is that they're meant to reflect something about humanity. We are supposed to see ourselves in them. And therefore we are either supposed to relate to their plight, or perhaps see it as something about us that should be expunged, removed. Dragons are not humanoid, generally speaking. They might have some humanoid features, but mostly they don't look anything like humans at all. And that's because they represent the forces of nature, the forces of the universe, those things that diametrically oppose mankind, those things that man must overcome. Now, if you go with very literal interpretations, Godzilla, being a giant fire-breathing lizard, is a dragon, and a force of nature to boot. But Godzilla has a humanoid shape, and that's because he's not just a force of nature. He is the representation of man's greatest achievement and simultaneously his greatest sin. The great achievement was splitting the atom. The great sin was using that discovery as a weapon. So really, it's only fitting that Godzilla be that bridge between the ogre and the dragon. Something unfamiliar and yet terrifyingly familiar. Godzilla represents what mankind can produce and how it affects the world. That truly is unique. There may be other monsters that look similar, but really, none of them have that same metaphorical weight to them. And that is what you need to realize if you are to be considered worthy of being called the king of the monsters. You need to be more than just an upright, lumbering behemoth. You need to represent something. You need to be more. If your movie understands that, then, and only then, will you be worthy of being called Godzilla. And I really, really do want you to be worthy of that. Well, I'm off to go see the movie. Good luck. You did it. And that's my review in a nutshell. This movie is worth it. Then again, there have been some detractors, as every movie has. I'd like to address a few of the concerns that people have pointed out that, people say detract from the movie drastically. Now, there have been some complaints that this guy in particular is not in the movie all that much, and that for a movie called Godzilla, it's surprisingly light on kaiju action. Technically, that's true. There isn't really a very strong focus on the monsters. If you're expecting, out of a 2-hour movie, if you're expecting maybe 45 minutes worth of monsters, you're not gonna get that. But every moment that the monsters are on screen, it counts for something. I've seen so many giant monster movies, some of them actual Godzilla movies from Japan, where the kaiju just haven't mattered. Final Wars comes to mind. It felt like they were included as an afterthought, sort of tacked on. Every time they're on screen, you're just sort of like, who cares? And you felt the same way with the humans, thus making the whole movie pointless. But, darn, I should have said my line. Oh well, this is what you get when you improvise. However, I will say that every moment the kaiju are on screen, it really stands out. There's a scene where the male and female Muto finally meet up in San Francisco, and their meeting is surprisingly heartfelt. That moment between the two of them where they see each other and they nuzzle. It sounds weird to describe it, but when you see it, you really feel a connection between the two of them. It's got to be seen. Also, let's talk about the fact that many people say Aaron Taylor Thomas makes a weak lead. I think that's an overreaction. First of all, he's not a bad actor, and hearing some of these people talk, you would think he is. I personally believe that he is a good actor. He makes a good lead. he just is surrounded by people who are so much better. Bryan Cranston, of course, Ken Watanabe, everyone else. And they do kind of overshadow him. Part of that is how the role is written, which he can't help. He's just the actor. But that being said, I do think he's a good lead. He's not perfect, I admit, but he's still good. Some people have said that the script is a little contrived. Okay, no script is perfect. Every script has contrivance somehow. Even the ones that are based on true stories somehow manage to get contrivance into the mix. So I can forgive that. It's not like there are any gaping plot holes or anything. Some have said that they think that Gareth Edwards missed the point of Godzilla, which you might recall was one of my requirements. I personally think he got it. I think that this is a different kind of Godzilla. And when you think about it, there's always been a different kind of Godzilla. You've had the original one, which was a symbol for nuclear holocaust. You had the force of nature from the early 60s. You had the campy superhero from the 70s. You had the sort of anti-hero of the 90s. And then the Millennium series was all over the place. So when you get right down to it, there's really not one definitive Godzilla. There are all sorts of Godzillas. And this is a worthy entry. A force of nature whose job it is to restore balance. I've heard some people say that sounds like the 90s Gamera movies. To which I say, how is that a criticism? The 90s Gamera movies were amazing. I mean, the 60s ones, yeah, screw them. But the 90s ones, those are the movies you would want to emulate. So I don't necessarily mind that. Besides, it kind of brings it around full circle. Gamera was meant to copy Godzilla. Now Godzilla's taking good aspects from Gamera. It didn't bother me. I don't really want to get into too many spoilers, but because I want you to see it. But all I can really say is you need to see this movie. If you're a Godzilla fan, if you're not a Godzilla fan, go see it. And if you're disappointed that there wasn't enough focus on the monsters, well, if you don't go see it, there won't be a sequel where they can change that. Look, I really don't get this particular argument that people are saying not enough focus on the monsters. Like I said, every time those monsters are on screen, they dominate it. And you get so much from every moment. It's not like the Michael Bay Transformers movies where they appear on screen, the Autobots and the Decepticons, they're there, and you just don't care because there's nothing done to make you care about them. And the Autobots and Decepticons can talk. They don't just roar, they actually can talk. So when you have characters that talk and you still can't make their limited screen time count for anything, I mean, wow, that's astounding. But every time he's on screen, every time the Mutos are on screen, you feel that presence. And one quick last note about the limited screen time of Godzilla. I personally see it like William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. You would think that the play is about Caesar, right? Because his name is in the title. When you read the play, or see the play preferably, Brutus is actually the main character. Caesar gets killed really early. So that's confusing at first until you actually see the play and realize that everything somehow still relates back to Caesar. Everything is about Caesar. He's the catalyst for everything that happens after his death, his presence before, his presence during, when he's alive. The show is about Caesar, even though Caesar isn't necessarily in it all that much. And Gareth Edwards' Godzilla is always about Godzilla somehow. Everything comes back to him. Why are the characters doing what they're doing? Because Godzilla is there. Why is the army doing certain things? Because they have to deal with Godzilla and the Mutos. Why are the Mutos trying to build a nest? Because Godzilla is after them. It's all about him. Just because he doesn't have that much screen time, that doesn't mean it's not his movie. At the end of the day, this is still Godzilla's movie. So take that as you will. I would highly recommend that you see this film. It does stuff that I've never seen done in a kaiju movie before, even with CGI. It's good. Just watch it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my review. Now, that's not to say there's nothing left to talk about with this movie, but we'll get to that later. So until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni-Viewer and Godzilla signing off.